Yay.
For a long period of my life, I knew that I was supposed to be an artist. I'm not comfortable lowering my price because you don't think it's important. Design and visuals are always going to be a big part of my life. Start creating content now.
Cool. Okay, before we start.
Nice. Oh, what's it going to say? I need to put this on my other monitor so I can read it.
Yay.
Ah!
Worked. Yay. Thank you,
Yay.
Mr. Board, for not letting me down.
Mm.
Cool. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
How you've been? Good to have you. Thank you so much for joining my little YouTube channel and my little creative world that I created very selfishly to talk to people like yourself who inspire me daily. Thank you so much for joining.
Wonderful. It was my pleasure to do this. And I know we've been talking about this, so I'm glad the day is here.
Yeah, and thank you so much. For anyone that doesn't know you, I can speak about you and your greatness and the things that you do for days. Who are you, Chris?
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Doe. In case you don't know me, I'm a loud introvert, a recovering graphic designer, a serial entrepreneur, an A- student, but a first-class troublemaker. For many years, I ran a service design business called Blind, making commercials and music videos for the biggest brands and bands in the world. But today, what I do is I create educational material. I consider ourselves a content and education company, and this is my deepest passion. And my mission is to impact the lives of 1 billion people, teaching them how to make a living doing what they love.
I love that. I mean, we need to dive into that because I'm part of that group. I'm being impacted daily. That's how I bumped into you, as in I was introduced to your space. First, I found you on YouTube, and I think I went on like a roll. I was just like 4 hours with my little crackers watching. I was like, this is completely blowing my mind. Feel free how long you want to talk about it, but what's your story? I would love to just spend a few minutes on how did you get where you are? What's your story? What are we looking at in terms of Chris's journey up till now? If you can give us a bit of an introduction to your world.
I can. What I'll do is I'll briefly go over my timeline, the important milestones, then I'll do that. And if you want to go back and dig a little bit deeper, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure.
I want to let everybody know that I'm a first generation immigrant. My parents fled Saigon, Vietnam in 1975 due to the collapse of the country and takeover by the Communist Party. We landed, of all places, in Kansas City, Missouri, and then we eventually moved to California, where I grew up in Silicon Valley. For a long period of my life, I knew that I was supposed to be an artist or designer, but refused to allow myself that dream, thinking that my parents had sacrificed so much for their 3 children to have a better life, and for me to throw it away on something like design and art and basically be a starving person for the rest of my life would be to dishonor my own parents. But when I was 17 years old, I had this very rare opportunity to work at a silk screening place, a place that combined illustration, design, and desktop publishing and a business. And I learned from that experience that I can actually have a life and not starve and pursue a professional career in design. This led me, of course, to go to Art Center, where I got my graphic design degree. Shortly after graduation, I had the opportunity to start my own business, and I'd been doing that since 1995. Up until 2014, my life changes again because a friend from Art Center asked me to go make content with him on YouTube. I reluctantly agreed, and creating that content changed the entire trajectory of my life and my business, and it's what I do now full-time. I'm a 100% full-time content creator with a team of about 17 people working with me, building a business that I love, helping people.
Oh my goodness, I love that. So you gave us like a little snapshot, and I have, of course, so many questions because I think one of my passions since I got to know your world and the Future Group, you're all about, you talk a lot about being creative, and you are in the visual space as well in terms of what you do with Blind, I'm guessing, right? A lot with your agency. So a very quick question, like I could ask you, are you a visual person? But I can sense you are, because I could even see in your lives you have these books full of doodles and words. What's going on there for you, using a lot of visuals, and I'm guessing you're thinking your work?
Yes, I think I'm a visual processing person. Of course, it's not so clear cut. I mean, I do listen to things and learn as well, but I find that when I read words on a page, I absorb the information more deeply. I connect to it more. I often have times hearing certain sounds and being able to spell those words, but when I see it, then I'm like, oh, that's the word that they're saying, and now I know how to spell it. And so then you say, like, well, then it seems pretty natural that you're in the visual arts space. And I studied graphic design. I like to think that I have a high degree of taste and aesthetic, and I notice visual things much more than say the average person does. So, and for a very long time in my life, as far as I can remember in class, I'm always doodling. I'm always translating ideas, thoughts, fantastical images, and just making things. And now that I'm able to teach and help people with business and communications concepts, those drawing skills are coming back in a big way, because then I can articulate ideas visually, verbally, and through demonstrations. And so I think design and visuals are always going to be a big part of my life.
And I'm very curious, why did you decide to kind of focus your energy and attention with the future group, especially I can see, to help all these creative people? Because some are in visual industry, some are in writing, lots of different humans, right? But everything connects to kind of this creative space. Why did you decide to focus on that group specifically, to kind of grow us all and kind of open our minds a bit?
So there are limitations of time and interaction. So if we talk about creating videos on YouTube, where we have over 2 million subscribers to our channel, it's not bi-directional by design. You create content, you might answer a few questions in the chat, but you can't have really meaningful long-term conversations or dialogue with people. And so you have to create another space for that. And obviously I can't just open up to everyone, because then there will be too many people in it and we'll all get lost in a shuffle. So it's an exclusive group. It's growing in size, but not unmanageable. There's 800 plus people in it. And the one thing I wanted to do, as they say, is you need to scratch your own itch. So when I was struggling as a newly founded business and a business owner, I didn't have the skills that I needed to be successful. I didn't know how to talk to clients. I didn't know the bidding process. I didn't know about sales and negotiations and overcoming objections. And I desperately needed help, but I just couldn't find anybody. I tried, but no one was willing to help. So many years later, after having received help from hiring coaches and running my business for almost 2 decades, I thought perhaps other creative people, other entrepreneurs might want the same thing that I wanted back in year 1 or 2 of my business. Thus was born the Future Pro Group. And so initially you attract people just like you, a bunch of designers, identity design, brand strategists, branding people. But then as we're finding out, as the channel continues to grow, we attract all kinds of people. I like to lovingly refer to all of us as a bunch of misfits and rebels, the square pegs in the round holes. People who feel like there's a higher calling for them. They can't realize that in a way that makes sense. And so we're that place for them. My friend Annalie Hansen likes to describe me, not just because of my haircut, as Professor X. And this is the school for gifted children. And this is how I see it.
I always think, like, gosh, if I had teachers like that at school would be so much more fun. So yeah, that's definitely something that I almost feel like in my 30s now I'm experiencing this kind of like second wave of learning, but it's very enjoyable. So it's just one of those things where it's learning, but it's connecting. It's just fabulous. So thank you for creating that. If I were to jump into kind of more, let's say, I have a few kind of, let's say, tips, questions to you, because you work with so many businesses. You won awards. Hello, Emmy and everything. You know your thing. You're a pro. I can see that through your videos. If I were to ask you kind of few questions that a lot of our audiences actually, they send them through and they were like, I struggle with that. I struggle with this. Would you be happy to reply to a few and see what do you think?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Cool. So one of the questions that I was sent was, how would you respond to people who tell you it's just drawings? And I'm guessing that's from someone who's visual like us.
Okay. All right. When people use the word just, it's a strategy, whether it's conscious or unconscious, to diminish what you do. It's just carrying 4 bags. It's just a short trip to the airport. It's just 4 days of your time. And so we kind of have to be mindful of that. So it's a strategy that people use to diminish what it is, your contribution. So what I would do is first tell you, don't be triggered by that word. Don't have an emotional reaction. And in fact, when you're talking to a prospect, a client, a potential client, what they want to do, because they think it's a negotiation strategy to diminish you, therefore they'll get the best price. But what they don't realize is there's an emotional being behind all that, and that they can wound you. Now, I find that when I fight and disagree with clients, especially, the outcome rarely ever turns out positive. So what I do is I just usually agree. So if you don't mind, Natalia, let's try this, where you tell me that it's just drawings, and I'll tell you how I responded, and then we can break it down afterwards. Okay? Would you like to do a little role play with me?
Sure, let's do that. I think that would be super helpful for many people who are like, well, how do you say that? So you definitely been doing a lot of these and they're very helpful. Sure, let's do it. So
okay,
for the sake
before I continue,
yeah.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Natalia, yeah.
Natalia, okay, beautiful.
Natalia,
okay. So, yeah, so you start, and then
Yeah,
I'll respond. Okay. And you're the prospect and I'm the vendor here. Okay.
do it. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Thanks so much. So we would love to use your services. We would love some design made for our campaign. How can you help us?
Oh, okay. So we can save time. Let's just start with the yeah, we'd like this, but it's just
Oh,
drawing. So
okay, let's
get
go
right to it.
straight into that.
Otherwise, that'll take too long. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries, no
ahead.
worries. Okay. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we really like what you do, but it's just drawings.
I guess they are just drawings. And when you say that, do you mean like they're easy to do and anybody can do it?
Well, we just need you like for a few hours to come to the event and help us, kind of bring our thoughts together. But yeah, I mean, if it doesn't happen, we can still continue with the event, I guess.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not an important thing to you and anybody can do this, right?
Well, we just wanted like, a few simple drawings, like sketches and everything, like nothing
Yeah.
really, nothing big, nothing too wild. If you can just come and like do your thing and we should be fine. Is that okay?
I'd love to come do my thing, but it doesn't sound like it's a priority for you, that there are other things that you'd rather focus on the way that you're describing this. Am I misreading it?
Well, no, but yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking something simple that we can use, not like a fully fledged design because we don't have budget for that. So few little sketches, would that be okay if you just join us? I mean, you're good at this, right? You can do some drawings, can you?
Well, thank you. I think I'm pretty good at this. So it sounds to me like you want something simple, which is good because that's all I want to do. I want to do simple drawings. It's about communication, not detail, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. And your event's only a couple of hours, and so you only need someone there for a couple of hours. That's true too, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like no
Yeah.
prep, don't worry about anything else, just like simple.
Yeah. So the challenge I have is that I don't charge by the hour or how simple it may appear to be. I have a fixed fee, and for doing something like this, it would be in the ballpark of $5,000, let's say. And based on how you're talking about it, it sounds like you'd rather not spend the money at all. Or maybe you would. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I respect your art and everything. I think you're great. But to be fair with you, I can find someone much cheaper than that. I don't have that budget. So that's why I was suggesting maybe, it's, just some little doodles here and there. We can then take it forward. And would that be okay? Like if we kind of make it simpler? Because I don't have that budget.
Yeah, I understand you don't have the budget. And if you have someone who could do it for a lot less, I say you should probably go with that option. I think I bring something unique to the table. If you don't see that, then there's no point for you to spend extra money. I would agree with you. So these other people that you have in mind, would they give you what you want at the price that you want?
I mean, I'm guessing I have few, people that I'm speaking to. I kind of have to almost pick few options. So, but I went with you first because I really like what you do. But I just, is that not like just, a few simple drawings? That's why I thought like you might be up for it.
Yeah, no, I don't really do that. I mean, I'm happy to help bring some value to you and your audience and the experience and hopefully create something that's memorable along with what you're doing. But I think if I'm the first conversation and many conversations you need to have with other artists to consider, perhaps when you talk to them, if you don't feel like you're getting what you need, you can call me back. But otherwise, I'm not really I'm not comfortable lowering my price because you don't think it's important. I'd rather just work with people who think that the drawing contributes to the experience of the event and not like anybody will do. And if that's the case, then I don't think you should spend the money unless you really think that I can add value. I would not feel comfortable accepting the assignment.
I really like what you do, but it's hard to explain to my boss if I found someone half the price. Why should we go with you, right? So that's
Yeah,
why.
I can't make that argument. Yeah. If you find somebody for half the price and you think they do the same work, I think you do owe it to yourself and your boss to hire that person. And I feel like we're talking in circles. So I wish you the best. And if you don't feel comfortable with talking or working with those people, feel free to call me back anytime.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. You're very welcome. Okay, bye. All right.
Boom! Down the drain.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what happened here. I'd love to answer some questions for you about what it is I'm doing and how you feel about the entire process. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the question is a lot of people, at least in as well, let's say I've had that experience. A lot of people that I know in creative space had that experience where, let's say the clients or the prospects or the leads don't see the value. They treat it as a kind of a,
Yep.
nice to have or like an add-on or something.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, you can talk about it all day long, but they will never, let's say, see as much value as, I'm guessing, speaking to a lawyer. They don't even question. Of course, a lawyer is going to be that, and please help us, right? So
Yeah.
I'm guessing there's that frustration that kind of sits within the creative space. And I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot of voices here.
Yeah. So is there a question that you might have had about how to handle this type of situation? What's going on in my mind? Why did I choose certain words? Or
Yeah, no, I wonder, I guess, especially even when I learn from you, I wonder how to stay cool and how to kind of hold your ground when someone really kind of challenges that. At least in my experience, I often kind of crumble.
yeah,
Is
good.
that a question? Yeah.
Okay. So when we go into conversations like this, you need to remind yourself, I don't need this gig, and I'm not going to sign up for mental or verbal abuse. But I don't need to react to it. I don't know what's going on in the person's life. I don't know what pressure they're under. So they're going to say whatever they want. The only thing I need to do is be in control of myself, and I'm not going to react to anything that you say. I need to remember that. And if you have to do a little meditation or clearing and grounding yourself before you have these kind of conversations, I would suggest that you do that. Going into it, my mindset is I have a gift, and only by the client being smart enough to realize that I have a gift and that they're willing to pay me, can I give it to them. And if they don't see that as a gift, then it's an annoyance, and I don't want to be annoying to anybody. I realize that the person wants to work with me, but is doing everything in their power to make me lower my price, and I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to be rude about it. I'm not going to be emotionally charged about it. I'm just going to try to understand it from their point of view. And in the situation here, Natalia, what happened was you said conflicting things that you're not ready to admit. So I know we're not a good fit, right? You said, I love what you do, but I don't want to pay you. It's not important, but I'm talking to you, but I won't hang up the phone. If it's not important, move on with your life. You got to make a decision. All you're trying to do is hammer me to get it as cheap as possible. And I don't want to work that way. You're trying to dictate to me how I work and what my value is. And you're not allowed to do that. You can decide for yourself how valuable it is, but you can't tell me how I feel about it. So I'm okay with just walking away. So if you're a creative person and you want this so badly, you'll lose any leverage you have because you're so desperate to work with people. I find that in more cases than not, when I'm able to hold myself, to be confident, to not get offended and bent out of shape, they're going to talk to some other people, and they're going to get a little scared and nervous about those other people because they're not as confident, because they're willing to do anything. Now, when you have a price buyer, which sounds like who you are, they're just shopping for the lowest price, right? I don't want to waste too much time. I want to say you probably should find the lowest price because you're a bargain hunter. I don't say that out loud, but that's what I'm thinking. And I'm not looking for price buyers. I'm looking for value buyers. People who, and I tried to do this with you, but it didn't seem like you were interested at all, which was you're designing an experience for your attendees to an event. You could come to the conclusion that the quality of the drawings and how they capture certain ideas add to the experience. And if you don't see that as valuable, there's nothing I can do to convince you that it is valuable. In fact, doing so becomes really annoying. It becomes really pitchy. So I advise people not to do that.
I like that. I like that kind of, this is a practice though, isn't it? Right? You kind of have to do it a few times enough to kind of almost feel a shift. I don't know. Like that's kind of how I've always felt about like my growth in general as a person talking to people, as a listener. It's all about exercising it. Once I'll do better, once I'll do worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of the keeping cool is something that definitely I think at least a lot of people that I know, including myself, sometimes we just are like, oh no, how do I explain that this is great?
I
So
would tell you your instincts will betray you.
mm,
Don't explain it that it's great. Just ask them what's important to you. How do you make decisions? If it's about price, then you should go shop for the best price. If it's about quality and the experience that you hope to create for your attendees, and then ask them what would contribute to that. Food, decorations, the drawing, they get to decide. I'm not here to tell you how to make decisions. I just want to understand how you make decisions and see if you're acting in accordance with how you think.
there you go. Like that. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
next question. I've got, what are your tips for clients to help them get the most out of an engagement with an agency? That's actually someone I know, and I know why he's asking that.
Okay. I would say pick the person that you want to work with very carefully and look at their body of work. And is it 80% of what you want in terms of the style, the thinking, the writing, the approach and the process? If it is, once you decide that this is the person you want to work with, I would encourage you to try to be as hands off as possible. Aside from stating the objectives, and make sure the objectives are measurable and not subjective. They're clear, and you have agreement with your agency that this is what it needs to do. And then whenever you look at work, map it back to that, you know. And if the agency asks you lots of questions about your visual preferences, and if you need help, don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure, can you help me, can you show me a couple of things quickly so that we can get to the same place together before you invest real amount of time and energy against this. The
Mm.
best clients I've ever had, the ones that I give them the most, allow me to do my best work. So when they start controlling me, I say, well, why do I want to keep trying? Why do I want to bring new ideas? Why do I want to give it all this love? Because they're just going to change everything anyway. So why even do that? And so you're sucking away someone's motivation and their desire to do a really good job for you. So the best clients we've ever had are usually other artists, like musicians, like bands. When we make music videos for them, they don't interfere with the creative process at all. They just say, like, come up with some ideas and we'll approve them. And then once approved, we'll just get out of your hair and you just do whatever it is you need to do.
That's like the perfect client.
It is like the perfect client. And then we give them 4 times as much work.
So on
Go
the
ahead.
flip side, if
Mhm.
we were to turn that question, I'm just curious, what would you say? In what ways can the creatives support the clients to get the most out of their engagements? The other way around, how can we as creatives support best them on the
It'll
journey?
be the mirror opposite of what I just said. So when you find clients who trust you, don't let down that trust. Don't take them for granted. Make sure you help create clear objectives that you're going to hit, and that you use language that's inclusive, and don't try to browbeat your clients and make them feel inferior to you. Something that my business coach told me a long time ago was that the clients are more afraid of you than you are of them, because in this space you are the expert. Like, you're the person who makes amazing information based drawings, or you're the expert at building amazing identity systems, and they don't know. So they're afraid to use language, because by using certain language they're going to seem like a fool, and no one wants to appear to be a fool. So what I would encourage all of you to do is create space by changing the language that you would use, that a layperson, a non-trained person would be able to use and understand, and guide them gently through the process so they can feel smart and empowered and a part of the process. Because at the end of the day, they have a lot of fears and concerns about whether or not you're the right person, that you're going to show up and do the work, and that they're going to like the results after having spent a lot of money with you. So your job is to continue to build that trust and not to let that down. Like, don't make it about you and your art. Try to support what they're trying to do. And when you do that, they give you even more freedom. And so it's kind of a strange paradox that the more you try to serve them, the more freedom you'll get, and you'll be able to do what you want to do.
That kind of mutual almost trust, right? Like
Yes.
we are all equal, we all have skills. You came here for us to help you with something. We want to help you with something. Let's do it. It's almost like that, right? Let's trust each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Next one. What work inspires you? That's a very broad one.
What work inspires me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that different than many of you. On If you go on Instagram or LinkedIn, there's a ton of really amazing work that's out there, from graphic design, illustration, concept art, architecture, sculpture, performance. I think all of us are attracted to beauty, to transcendent experiences. So whether you're standing in an incredible piece of architecture or in front of a painting, lose yourself in that, and that's okay. What I try to do is I try to draw inspiration outside of the world that I'm from. So if I'm a graphic designer, after having consumed so much graphic design content, I need to be careful, because otherwise they start to regurgitate my influences. And as far as I know, it's kind of impossible for you not to be influenced by the things you stare at a lot. So where I like to go now is I spend a lot of time listening to philosophers, understanding like the way people think and how they break down concepts and ideas, to masterful storytellers, and just study them. So I'm trying to move outside of the world of visual arts and maybe move into performing arts. Stand-up comedians are one that I like to study and get inspired from. how they're able to package a story, how they're able to keep your attention and delay the punchline. What does their body do when they're talking? How do they change their voice to express different characters and moods and ideas?
Oh my
Like
goodness.
David
Who's your
Dave
favorite?
Chappelle.
Yeah.
Well, I like Dave Chappelle a lot. He's a masterful storyteller, and he's a he's a big, strong black man, but he can also be very vulnerable and very real. And I just love how when he turns it aside and looks like that as a reaction, as a shock, the audience will just laugh because it's kind of this lovable, very real expression that we might feel inside, and he's able to manifest it in physical form, and we connect to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him actually live once in London. That was a big deal. Goodness me. Any other favorites that you have from in comedy?
Um, well, there's a lot of people that study in comedy. Like I like Andrew Schultz a lot. He's a young, up and coming comic, and he does what is called crowd work, which is he just makes fun of the audience the entire time. He pulls something, it's like pulling a string, and then he builds a story and a narrative around it, and he'll pick on someone else, but then he'll come back to that person. So it's kind of really neat. I admire people who can build something from nothing, and so you're part of the routine, and no two shows are going to be exactly the same.
To me, you always seem like, on the note of kind of, body language and everything, whenever I watch your videos or I see you speak or whatnot, you seem always so cool and calm, so collected. Has that always been part of your personality, in terms of you've always kind of been this way? You kind of developed that over the years? Do you shift and kind of depending on the audience and on the room? How do you do
Yes, I think what you see as cool and calm might just be nerves and
that?
self-consciousness. I'm just being very self-conscious uh, about how I come across to people. Sometimes, depending on the videos, I want to begin with something bombastic, and I want to shock them with a piece of energy. And so some of the videos were like, "What is up, everybody? So glad to see you today. Happy Friday to you." And I'll do that. And people are like, "Woo, who's this guy?" But it's very hard to maintain that for 45, 60 minutes, because I'll burn out and you'll burn out because it's just too much extroverted energy, which I'm not. But I don't think that's really who I am, this cool, calm, controlled person. I actually think I'm playful and weird and wacky. I talk about things that are serious, but I don't take myself seriously. And so if you see me in workshops or in small classrooms where there's room for me to do that and be this personality, I think you're going to see more of my real me. I like to make fun of people. I like to make fun of myself. I want to have a good laugh, and not just to teach and learn, but I want you to enjoy the experience of learning together. So oftentimes I will do strange things that you would not expect someone like me to do, because I think it's a way of breaking the ice to say, I'm on stage or I'm the teacher, but we're all the same. The only difference is I'm on the opposite side of the stage, you're on that side, and I want you to feel safe to say what you want, to feel what you want, and to express yourself. And the way I do that is through lighthearted comedy and exaggeration and body language.
Love it. Because when you say that, I read you like that because you're probably a bit anxious or something. Well, I'm the opposite. When I'm now a bit anxious because I'm really excited to speak to you, and in general, my body's like, "Yay, we're talking! This is so cool." So I get very talkative. I get louder sometimes. I get too fast. So, what would you suggest to a person like myself to kind of, slow down? You're still listened, but like, keep my personality, I'm guessing, because I'm quite bubbly, but like, Natalia, cool down, chill, slow down. What would you say to that type of personality?
Mm. I'll make an analogy for you. If you love steaks and it's perfectly cooked and it's perfectly seasoned, there's only so much steak that you can eat before you lose the taste of the steak. And this is why it's important for us to contrast the foods with different textures, different flavor profiles, because when you eat something else and you come back to the steak, you're reminded of the wonderful taste of the steak again. So if you eat sushi, the ginger is acting as a palate cleanser, not as a garnish or a condiment. So after you eat one thing, you balance it out with some ginger, and then you move on to the next thing so that you can really reset the palate. Now, you as a person, if you're like high energy and super bubbly, that's great. Don't lose that part of you. But when you do that for too long, then it just becomes overwhelming, and then people get tired, they're fatigued by it. So it's important for you to insert quieter moments, more contemplative moments, and then spike back up with energy. And so what we want to do, and this is a simple trick everybody can try, without changing who you are, just vary the speed in which you talk. You'll see that just by changing the speed, nothing else, no tone changes, nothing else, you'll come across differently, and your stories and your ideas will hit differently. So try this. Let's try it. Okay. So let's say I want you to think about things a little bit more. I'm going to take longer breaks, and I'm going to slow my speech down. See, all of a sudden, it's like we're going to pull people to us. If you speak slower and quieter, people are going to come in and like, Alina, what? It is something important is about to happen, right? And let's change it up a little bit. Like, I'm really excited to see you, and I just love your glasses because I feel like we're twins and we have matching vestiboards in the background. I might speak a little bit faster, and then you're going to feel like, oh, Chris is getting excited, and something wonderful or crazy or bad will happen right now because the energy level is totally different. So there's my baseline. There's me speaking slower, and then there's me speaking faster. And that would just change how people perceive you. And so when people speak, their fears are going to come across as monotone, that they're going to put everybody to sleep. And the way that you can do that is just to vary the speed. There's lots of other things that you can do, but start there.
I like what you're saying, because again, when especially if I have a talk or something, my body takes over and I'm like, gotta deliver the talk or something, that takes over. And I would love to practice more like, no, you're fine. Like, everyone's fine. You're giving your, let's say talk, you're waiting for people's reaction, but you're so right. If I were to slow down, it almost feels like it's a bit of a secret or something, like you say, anticipation, right? Like, what is she gonna say? So I really love that suggestion, because I would love to practice that more. I just go like a train because I need to deliver this. There's a slide 2, 5, 10. I gotta do it, and it just takes over.
I'm the same.
Yeah. So this is really cool. I like what you're saying there. Cool. I think I've got like one or more two questions, and then we can do like quick fire questions. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. There's one more. I find it interesting. What keeps you in your work? And in is in inverted commas.
What does that mean? What keeps me in my work? What do you think that means?
Maybe I can help you with maybe inspired, keeps you going. Maybe let's like rephrase that if that's easier. Yeah.
Okay. How do I stay inspired and motivated to work?
Could be, which a lot of us are struggling right now.
Yeah. I think when you start to feel burnt out in the work that you do, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. It's time to check in with yourself. If you're doing client work, if you don't love the work that you're doing, I suspect oftentimes you're not being paid enough. I find that my mood changes a lot when I'm able to charge more and people pay me a lot of money, right? If it's painful, like, I'll give you an example. I don't love giving talks. I have to write and I have to think about the slides and the cadence and the flow. And sometimes it can be quite painful, the creative process of writing a talk and then delivering it. But when my clients or the people who book me pay me $30,000, I sit there and think, oh, this is pretty pleasurable right now that I get paid a lot of money, almost obscene amount, to think and share my thoughts with people. That's pretty cool. But if I was doing the same thing and the same amount of work and labor and I was getting paid $1,000 for it, I'll start to think, oh, why am I doing so much work? Why am I so stressed out for $1,000? Isn't my life meant to be more than this? So oftentimes when we're not loving what we're doing, A, it's a sign that you're not being paid enough, but there are other things. Two, could be that the person that you're doing this work for micromanages you too much, that there's no sense of autonomy, that you're being led down a very specific path and you're not able to do your best work, the work that has meaning and impact in the world. And so that's a problem too. So in an ideal world, I get paid a lot of money to do exactly what I want. And that should be the goal for all of you. Now, the reason why I'm motivated and inspired and I don't need to recharge is because I'm so connected to the work that I'm doing as to who I am. Let me explain. I don't do client work. Haven't done client work since December of 2018. What I do is I get to read comments and respond to people having problems and think about how I can serve them. And the better job that I can do to serve them, to show up where they're at and to meet them where they're at, the more money I'm able to make. It's kind of a weird thing. And I love to point to this quote, and I should fire it up on my Vesta board here.
Yeah, do it.
Can
Do
we
it.
do it? Hopefully it doesn't have a fail moment here because
I mean,
it's
come
only been,
on. It's so good. We can
here we
always,
go.
speed it up.
So history. Here we go. I'll do this.
You're my first Vesta board buddy. Like literally, I don't know anyone around me with that. Ooh.
There it goes. Okay. I don't know if you can read that. My lamp is on the
Kinda.
right.
I think you have to read it
Okay.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of out of focus too, right? It's a Zig Ziglar quote, and it's something like this: "You can get everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want." And I
Ooh.
really believe in that. And my business model now is really around trying to help people get what they want.
It's kind of, and that drives all your actions, right? It's very kind of almost clear path. Whatever happens, that's
Yeah.
what you do. That's, yeah. That's very cool.
When your work is connected to your purpose as to who you are and your identity, it's very easy to stay motivated because I don't know what else I would be doing.
I can super relate to that. I don't know. It's like I've been doing this for now 11 years, and every day I wake up and there's an unknown. There's good days, bad days in terms of business. There's more exciting, there's more in front of computer. But one thing that stays the same is I'm always like, wow, today could be anything. And often it's not like a, crazy day or anything like that, but I'm fired by what I do and how this helps others. And I guess that's a good thing. That tells me that I'm doing something that I should, I guess.
Yes. And I think the more you're aligned with your purpose and what you're meant to do and how you're able to show up and share your very unique gift with people, the more things happen for you. And the reason why I'm so energized every single day is because every day I'm kind of pleasantly surprised as the opportunities that keep coming to me. So I'm able to work with brands and companies and people that I thought maybe never in a million years that this would ever happen. And they're happening in greater frequency, and the opportunities are just getting bigger and bigger. Let me give you an example, okay?
Yeah, please.
I've been doing design work for 20 plus years. I started my company in 1995, so it's been, I don't know what the math is. It's been a long time. And in that period of creativity, I've worked with two brands, basically Apple and Adobe. And I wanted to build a relationship with both companies, but I'm building one with Adobe right now. And it began very innocently by reaching out and saying, how can I contribute? And them inviting us to interview people on the floor at Adobe Max. And then the following year, they gave us a booth. Fast forward a couple of years, now I've been invited to speak at Adobe Max 2023 as a luminary keynote speaker.
It's amazing.
And they told me it's not
That's
yet
awesome.
for sure, but it'll be in the Microsoft Theater, which is an amazing theater that seats 1,000 people.
I want to come to that. That's
You
brilliant.
should most definitely.
Ooh.
Right. So it begins like they don't know who I am. They don't know if I'm alive. And you just keep doing what you do. And eventually those opportunities come to you where the person who's organizing the speakers said, "You have a great following. We love your message. We love what you do. We'd love to have you here. Would you do it?" Of course I would. And so that's what I mean. Like when you are aligned with your purpose and you try to serve people, good things happen for you.
I love that. Keep that in mind. I'm going to put it on my
Yeah.
board. Cool. So, few quick fire questions and then we're done.
Okay.
Ready?
All right. Mhm.
Let's do this. I'm going to throw some questions. Say
Let's
the
do
first
this.
that comes to you. Let's do this. I should have some drum roll. I'll put
Okay,
it
let me take a deep breath.
in.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yay. Okay. Best advice you've been given.
Say what you think.
What's the best advice you'd like to give?
Start today.
What's happiness?
Family.
Who's your hero?
My dad.
Do you collect anything?
I collect everything.
What matters?
Happiness.
What doesn't matter?
Other people's opinions.
What puts a smile on your face?
Purpose.
What's your purpose?
Help people.
What's your biggest fear?
That I'm stuck, that I don't grow.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Running a $100 million company that takes on big education.
If you could choose to do anything for a day, what would it be?
I'm doing it today.
If you had a warning label on your forehead, what would yours say?
Caution sometimes bites.
Where do you get your inspiration from?
Everywhere. The world.
Thanks, Chris. That's
You're welcome.
awesome. That was really
All
cool.
right.
You're very good at the quick thinking. Very good. A lot of people would just go into blah, 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 blah. That was really cool.
Oh, the rules of the game are say whatever comes to mind. It's not the perfect thing. It's just whatever comes to mind.
I love that.
I can follow rules.
Are rules important?
Important in what way? Define important.
Are rules always needed? Maybe that's what I wanted to say.
No, I don't think rules are always needed, but rules allow us to define the boundaries of a game that we play. And when we can see the boundaries, it allows us to feel safe and comfortable for us to do our best. But once you get to that place where you don't need those boundaries anymore, it's time to jump the boundaries. But it's good to know where the boundaries are.
Love it.
Yeah.
So closing up, Chris, because we have a few more
Mhm.
minutes. I would, I'll take any time I have with you. A lot of
Okay.
creative people will watch this. A lot of people who either are thinking to start something, or they have started a business and they're just starting, or maybe they are already running a fully fledged business or part of one. What would be your advice to someone on the starting point who is thinking about starting something, is not sure, a bit of a perfectionist? So no, let me first prepare this and this and this before I get out to the world. What's your advice?
My advice to anybody who's thinking about starting something is try to prototype a minimum viable product, an MVP. So let's just say you want to write a book. What I would not tell you to do is write the whole book and then self-publish and then sit on 4,000 copies of books that will not sell. What I would suggest that you do is try to launch a Kickstarter campaign, describe the book, the concept, just do enough so that you can evaluate product market fit. And that's a pretty straightforward example, but you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I don't know how to do an MVP version of what it is that I'm trying to do. So let's say you're a service business and you want to be able to design logos for people. What I would do is I would not quit my job. I would not tell the world, F you, I'm off to do my thing, because you're burning all the bridges unnecessarily. What I would do is send up a little trial balloon. And the trial balloon says, hey, I'm doing some side logo work. And if anybody needs help and you work with animals, I would like to work with you. And then see who responds and keep talking about it. And until someone responds, then you can have that experience to see, like, this is what I love and people actually need and want this and are willing to pay for it. And you would do that to a point in which it would be super uncomfortable for you, that you're now working a regular job, your 9 to 5, and now your 5 to 9 is also taking a lot of your time. When your side hustle becomes more lucrative and more fulfilling than your main job, then it's time for you to quit. In almost everything, I would suggest people try an idea out as quickly as possible and just continue to make refinements to it and see if the audience, the community, your customers actually desire what it is that you do. So if you want to create a podcast, it doesn't take a lot. Don't buy all the fancy gear. Use what you have and see if you like it. See if people will show up.
Yeah, I love that. I have just a very simple setup, and here you are, because I'm not a professional YouTuber like yourself, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying. Yeah,
Yet.
yet. What would you say then to people kind of where I am, 11 years in the business, ups and downs, growth, but then slow down, growth, slow down, nature of the world, I'm guessing, especially
Yep.
now for a lot of us, is not as easy as it used to be with the whole, post-pandemic world. What would be your advice for people like myself who are sometimes struggling with, the continuing on this journey, especially when it goes down?
Yeah, this is really tricky. There's many ways for me to answer this question. So I'll try to give you I'll try to give you a couple of options to look at and see which one resonates with you. Number one, I was watching this Netflix show. I think it's like a portrait of a therapist featuring a person named Dr. Stutz. And there's something that he said that really connected with me. And he said, he calls them tools, but I think there are 3 constants in life. One is to know that there's constant work. Number 2 is uncertainty. And number 3 is pain. When we refuse these things, it creates great unhappiness and friction in our life. But when we embrace that this is life, that consists of constant work, uncertainty, and pain, all of a sudden we're able to meet it and not dread it, and to embrace it and not to be upset by it. So when you start a business, you know it's constant work. You don't know what tomorrow will hold for you. You don't know if this client will say yes, or why that client was happy and why this client was sad or angry at you. You just don't know. And you also feel like, stretching, stepping into industries, growing as a human being is a painful process. Accept that as part of your growth and personal development, and you'll be fine. I've run my company for 20 plus years. I've had 2 years, one where we almost broke even and one where we lost like $18,000. Out of 22 years, that's not so bad. I'm not going to let those momentary setbacks allow it to dominate my self-talk where I'm starting to critique and attack myself. It's like pretty good run. 2 years where I took my eye off the prize and let others, and I made the same mistake those same 2 times, which I let someone else take over the company while I kind of sat in the back and work on creative, and they didn't run the company actively, were the 2 years in which we lost money. No surprise there. So it's a good learning lesson, and it didn't cost me that much to learn it.
Yeah, on that note, if I can connect even with, joining your pro group and learning from yourself, even on YouTube, you have so many videos that are free, and there's so much knowledge there. If that's something that any of the viewers want to explore. But I find that I've been learning so much recently and opening my mind into, new ways of thinking about it's beyond business, right? Just in general, I feel like I'm learning so much, but at times I find it like painful, like in terms of like, let's say I learned something from you on a video and I'm trying to exercise it, and then it doesn't work out as it worked out in your role play or in your,
Right.
instance. And I'm like, so, and you have to kind of, it's okay, on to the
It's
next.
okay.
That's the process, right? It's almost like it's not going to be perfect straight away, right? That's what I'm learning, I guess, through, learning from you and joining the group. And it's all kind of like, just push, just do it, just continue it. Like you say, it's constant work.
Yeah, I there's a quote, I'm gonna mess it up, but it's something to the effect of like success is going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm.
Love
And
that.
you're gonna hit these moments. It's gonna be painful and you're gonna have setbacks and you're gonna see a role play and you're like, let me try. And you're gonna fail and that's okay. And you're gonna say to yourself, I tried. What did I do well? What could I do better? And you're gonna apply that and you're gonna keep doing that until you actually become successful. Most people have an unrealistic expectation as to how things are supposed to work. They're going to say to themselves, I'm going to try this new thing I've never done before. And I expect it to work out perfectly. Those are the wrong expectations. The expectation is, I'm going to try this new, super cool, crazy, scary thing. And my probability of success is going to be pretty low, but I'm going to do it despite that. And I'm going to make sure that I learn as much as I can in the process. And learning is the most important prize, not the end, not the result.
And you mentioned uncertainty. I love those three things: pain, uncertainty, and work. How are you with uncertainty?
I love uncertainty. Life is uncertain. Anything else would be to pretend that you have more control over things you have no control over. I'll give you an example.
Give me.
We need rain. We're in California. We need rain. It's very dry and we're desperate for water. And then it rains too much. And then now we have mud problems and erosion issues because it doesn't rain that often. And we can say like, oh, I hate this rain. But, just minutes ago, we wanted it to rain. And what we have to do is we just have to put ourselves into a place of complete surrender to accept the things that happen and to embrace every moment. So when we have sunshine and it doesn't rain, we just like, isn't it beautiful? It never gets wet here. And I get to enjoy beautiful weather 365 days of the year. And when it rains, like, oh, it's so nourishing. This is a good thing. And yes, there will be some setbacks and some problems in both situations, but to try to focus on how this is good, how to build a positive mindset around this, I think it will change who you are and your energy.
I recently were a part of a workshop, and there was a very interesting question that stuck with me, where usually we focus on, let's say there's a challenge and we say, oh, what is it that I'm going to lose, from that challenge, or what's going to happen bad, let's call it. And the question that the host flipped was, what am I here to gain from this challenge? And I was like, wow, I never looked at it that way. And it really stuck with me because it's kind of connecting to what do you say? There's always something, I'm guessing, to gain. There's always something positive we can take out of a situation. And even if it's uncertain, and trust me, for a lot of people that I know in my network and my friendship groups, there's a lot of uncertainty and beyond work.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Do you know who Peter Drucker is?
no?
Peter Drucker is the legendary business management guru. Many of the ideas and thoughts that you hear from people today are derivative of the things that Peter talked about many years ago. I think he's since passed away. But Peter Drucker said that in business, all profit comes from risk. Whoever takes on more risk will make more money. So if you're tired of not making money, it's because you're not taking enough risk. And let's look at it simply. When you work hourly and a client pays you per hour, like the previous role play that we tried out, what risk are you taking? You're not taking any risk. If you show up and work for 3 hours, they'll pay you for 3 hours. If you work 100 hours, they'll pay you 100 hours. Relatively low risk. So who's taking the risk? The client. The client takes the risk because if you just work really slowly, you're inefficient, or you don't know what you're doing, it's going to take a really long time. And then they're going to start to get really nervous that you're taking so long because they know every hour that you work on it, they're going to pay you more, right? And so they take on the risk. So then therefore they get to keep most of the money. That's why your rates hourly are so low. Let's change the scenario. Let's say you do a fixed fee. So in that same situation where we have to generate a piece of artwork for someone, we say it's going to cost $10,000. But if you wind up underestimating the gig, you're going to go negative on the job because you're going to spend more time making it than you had anticipated. Now, who's taking the risk? Well, you take the risk. The client says basically, until you're done, I don't care how long it takes you, I get what I want and I'm going to pay this exact amount. So they also realize by having you take the risk, they're willing to pay more than they would have if they were to manage it themselves. And so you have to understand in your business, if you want to grow, you need to take on greater risk, which is another word for uncertainty. So we embrace uncertainty as a way for us to grow financially and in terms of our personal development. And that's why I think you should seek it, you should embrace it, and you should accept it.
And on that note, I love that. I love that. I think that's if I anywhere speak to younger people or students, or I can give one advice, is always kind of, yes, go out there, talk to people. Nothing's going to happen just on its own. It's like you mentioned, you wanted to work with these companies, happened gradually, but it's happening because you're putting yourself out there, you're in their orbit. And I know a lot of people where few things don't work out and they're like, oh, then no, I'm gonna stop. And no, continue. It's a process, it's a journey, it's a constant. Yeah. So on that note, I love that kind of, let's finish on the high, let's finish on that kind of uplifting, hopefully for everyone, thought. Anything last you would like to say to a bunch of creative people who will look at you and probably follow you, and I will link everything you do down below. What would be your last, let's say, comment before we finish up to them?
I'll give you the advice I would give to myself, my younger self, which is start creating content now. I started when I was 42 years old, and I'm living my best life doing the work that matters, that has meaning, that is purposeful, and I'm being paid more for it than I have with anything else that I've ever done. So if I could, I would just go back in time. Instead of starting at 42, I'd start at 22. And could you imagine where I would be today if I'd been doing this for 28 years?
You would be the king of YouTube. I mean,
I would be the king of YouTube. I would. I really would be.
Yeah, no, but on that note, Chris, like, of course, again, as I said, I'll link all the places that people can find you. Where, because I'm in London, so I just wanted your final kind of thought, because I heard that you're coming to Europe. Where can people find you next year in Europe? I'm excited, and hopefully I can join in London.
Okay, you can find me on almost all social platforms. I'm at the Chris Do, Do spelled D-O. If you're curious about the company which I run, it's called The Future, and you go to thefuture.com. It's spelled F-U-T-U-R. There's no E at the end. Now, the thing I'm super, super excited about, the thing I was kind of hinting at earlier, which is I like working with people. I like working and engaging, the push and the pull, the answering in real time, and being able to see you and hear your specific question and being able to answer in a very nuanced way. If what you're hearing intrigues you and you want to experience this, and I consider it an experience, come to one of my full day workshops. I'm going to be in 9 cities. We're going to start in Manchester, go to London, to Berlin, to Amsterdam, to Stockholm, to Bucharest, Lisbon, Barcelona, and Dublin. hopefully, if we can sell enough tickets. So if you want to make this happen, we have a minimum threshold in order for us to book each city. And I hope to see you in London. I think that's going to be a blast. I'm doing 2 workshops there, one on personal branding and the other on running a business. We call it the business clinic because we're going to fix your business.
Ooh.
So am I going to see you there?
I am like already like April is like locked. No one can touch it. So there's a Sam
Can't
Smith
touch this.
cake after that, but I can totally come to you during the day.
That sounds like a wonderful thing. Yes.
Oh my goodness. No, yeah. Thank you so much, Chris. Like honestly, pleasure. Thank you for showing up and joining my lovely little creative YouTube channel. I really appreciate your thoughts. I really appreciate your sharing your wonderfulness, let's call it, on the internet. And I'm learning a lot from you. So I'm hoping to extend that to more humans like myself. So thank you so much for joining again. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. The last message I want to send out to all of you is you are not defined by your past. The future is what you make it. So make it a beautiful thing. Bye, everybody.
Love it. It's going to be literally on the board just after that. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been such a pleasure.
Okay.
See you
Thank
online.
you. See you in the program.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.